Dr. Kalani, you're welcome.
Thank you, Lillian. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, please.
So, Lillian, you did welcomed people in this X space. I just want to join my voice in welcoming. I don't know whether you're called participants or attendees of this X space. As Lillian mentioned, I'm Dr. Kenneth Kalani Okware. I wear many hats, but today I'm here in the capacity of the president-elect of the Uganda Association of Psychiatrists. I'm going to be the moderator for today's session. As you should be aware, we are going to discuss the topic, the cost of silence, men's mental health and help seeking. This, I believe, is one of the series of discussions that we've so far had in different platforms in this month of June. Just to remind us, June is the Men's Mental Health Month. It's put aside to raise awareness on men's mental health and also break stigma. I want to start by appreciating and recognizing the Ministry of Health, the Haven Mental Health Foundation, the Uganda Association of Psychiatrists, and the Clinical Psychologists Association Uganda, also known as CPAO, for arranging this, for organizing this X space. Now, today with me, I have three really great panelists. I hope they are all here. I see Benedict here. I see Raymond and Rogers also here. Quickly, I will introduce my panelists. I'll start with Dr. Benedict Akimana. He is a consultant psychiatrist and a mental health advocate with a passion for promoting mental well-being and reducing stigma. He's also an executive member of the Uganda Association of Psychiatrists. A second panelist is Mr. Rogers Nsereko, who is a principal clinical psychologist and the head of the Community and Recovery Department at Butabika Hospital. He carries with him over 20 years of experience in the practice of clinical psychology, but is also an executive member of the Clinical Psychologist Association Uganda. I think he's also a senior man. We shall hear from him. The third panelist is Mr. Raymond Mujuni. He is a renowned journalist, probably known to most of us in this X space. Now, to give some context to our discussion today, I just want to share some statistics and some facts related to men's mental health and men's mental well-being and mental health broadly or in the grand scheme of things. Based on the State of Uganda's Population Report of 2025, which was titled Mental Health, a Silent Emergency, mental illness has emerged as a major public health and development challenge in the country of Uganda. In that report, it highlights that facility-reported mental health cases, the mental health cases reported in the different facilities in the country had increased by a whopping 71% in the past 5 years. The report also highlights that the treatment gap for mental illness remains significantly high, estimated at 85%. That means 85% of people who are mentally ill do not get care or treatment. Now, we have some statistics known globally as well. Now, globally, men are disproportionately affected by mental illness. It is known that although depression is more in women, it is frequently under-recognized and undiagnosed in men. It's also known that men account for the majority of suicide deaths. In fact, it's estimated that men die by suicide at more than twice the rate of women. In some countries, even estimated 4 times more than women. Men are also generally less likely to seek professional mental health care. And harmful alcohol and substance use remain significant health risk to men globally, and even here in Uganda, if you looked at our statistics. These are very alarming statistics. And I want to start with Raymond. Raymond, feel free to unmute, and you can add on any other thing. I don't think I've done very good justice to your introductions. But besides that, I want to get your insights. As a man, what is the issue? What is the concern? What are the unique issues that men of today face that warrant a dedicated space like this one to discuss? Raymond.
Thank you so much, Kalani. I hope you can hear me. I hope I'm audible, just to be sure that I'm not speaking to myself.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Raymond.
Great, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me on this space. I am probably the least qualified to speak on the matter because I'm merely a patient, and there are psychiatrists here, there are psychologists here, there are people who work in the mental health space. Genuinely, there is something to be said about the fact that men, particularly in our society and in our societal context, have a very high threshold of demand that is thrown at them. And many of them are impossible within the circumstances they live in, find it impossible to meet those demands. And the gap between the expectations, the limitations that they have with them, and the ability to deliver sometimes can drive people into longer working hours with less rest, poor eating and feeding habits, extreme stress and exhaustion. And those things are sort of expected to continue for men, and yet men don't have the kinds of communities that have been built sometimes by women to be able to discuss those stresses. So I find many men, for example, that I speak to very often than not are not willing and ready to honestly answer the question of how are you. When you ask a man how are you, the most common answer is I'm okay. And if you stop and ask, but really, really, how are you? The most common answer will be, let's not talk about that. Let's move on. There's also so many spaces that have been created which are largely unhelpful. So that is, people go and drink themselves. They find coping mechanisms in drinking, coping mechanisms in drugs, coping mechanisms in hyperactivity. And some of those, if not most of those, are really unhelpful in dealing with the mental health issue at hand. So I guess that we need to start to talk about these things so that you first of all remove that men do not have mental health problems, do not have mental health concerns, or do not have mental. But number two, to create safe spaces where genuinely men can talk about the problems they're facing. It should be okay for us to say, I am unable to provide for my family, and this is the reason why I'm unable to provide for my family. And they should be able to find community when they say something like that, where they can be allowed to feel the things that they're feeling. And I find that many of those spaces are lacking. The other problem that I've found in society is male friendships, the structure and nature of male friendships. Many male friendships, in my view, at least in the experience I've had them, are built along the idea of either career advancement, killing a deal, and making more money. Because if you are not actively friendships that you can strengthen to help you deal with the economic issue that you have in your homestead, you're not considered a man. People have this glorified idea that men are hunters, an even more glorified idea that men should be providers of everything, and an even worse idea that in the search and hunt and provision, you should have no feelings. You should not express your feelings. So that concept within which men relate with themselves doesn't allow for them to actually track their emotions on a day-to-day basis and say, what is it I'm actually feeling and why am I feeling the way that I am feeling? And when they are feeling the way that they're feeling, oftentimes it's also hard to find people that you can talk to about the way it is in which you're feeling. We talk a lot about the negative emotions like sadness, like anxiety, but even happy moments, very few men express themselves when they're extremely happy. So they'll just say, you know what, let's go to the bar and drink this thing because I have to kill this deal. No one truly goes through the emotions to say, I have been chasing this for this long time, and it's given me a moment or a feeling of accomplishment that I have finally been able to execute this. And because people don't talk about their feelings, then they're not alive to those feelings. And those feelings can sometimes get in the way of the way that they react, the way that they deal with other people, the way that they conduct themselves in society. So I guess in a nutshell, I think that if you want to break the silence around mental health for men, one is to recognize that there's a stigma around it, but two, most importantly, is to recognize that even in the closed spaces like male friendships where this could be expressed, there is very little expression that's happening there. And I think one of the things that I'm always keen about is to have a sense of emotional education for men to say, this is the range of emotions that a human being feels. And you very likely feel all these feelings because you are a human being. And when you feel these feelings, expressing them doesn't make you weak or doesn't make you any stronger. It just means that you're human enough to say, this is what I am feeling, and this is why I'm feeling the way that I am feeling. So I guess that I'll stop there and say that that's my experience and interaction with mental health amongst men.
Thank you so much, Raymond. You give us a lot to think about, and from what you've discussed, I pick that a lot is expected of men, and yet they do not have sufficient resources to meet all these demands that are expected of them. And this is probably coupled or compounded by the glorified ideas that men have, maybe society have upon them. And you also highlight that men have defective ways of going through their emotions and often do not express their feelings. These are very, very good insights. Thank you. Now, I want to come to Rogers. I hope you're able to hear me. And note that, you've listened to Raymond, and he gives us all these issues that men face. But I'm wondering, is this a change over the years? Are there some social, cultural, or even economic transformations that have occurred over the years that men of today, face significant challenges or stressors, and linking with the issues that Raymond has just highlighted?
Yeah, thank you. Host. These are really insightful perspectives from Raymond. Truly, society places a lot of expectations on men, and it doesn't consider what resources the person has. A couple of things have happened over the years that has left men in a precarious situation. If we look at we start from the times of feminism movements, and over the years, it has come to a point where most men feel they do not have any roles, the traditional roles they used to have as the providers, the protectors, and that takes away their space and leaves them in a very difficult and stressful situation. The changes economically, the economic uncertainty, the changing labor markets, most men are unemployed, and they cannot provide for their families. So society still evaluates them as providers, but they don't have the means. And that brings a lot of stress on them. In psychological theory, there's what we call the role strain theory that stresses that when demands associated with societal roles exceed an individual's ability or resources to fulfill them, then that person is most likely going to be very stressed. So this is the situation that most men are going through. Then we've talked about, he has also talked about the changing family and gender roles. Traditional expectations for men have evolved over time.
Lillian, do we continue so that he can eventually join us, or we give him some minutes to join?
At this point, I am not certain what is happening with him.
Okay.
I have reached out, no response, but I think we can continue. He will join us at a later time.
Okay, so from what Mr. Nsoeko was speaking, I think I picked one key thing. He was highlighting the issue of roles, that traditionally we have some roles as men in society, and this is expected of us. Probably as we grow up, we are groomed to assume these roles and live and act by the roles that we have upon us. But in essence or in practice, there are many factors that affect our implementation of these roles. And it says that these roles have been taken away from us, and probably some men are left with nothing. We called it the role strain, which is very interesting. James, are you back?
Yes, I am back. I don't know where I lost you, because I only got to realize that we are not. Yes.
Okay. You were talking about the gender roles. You had just finished explaining the role strain theory, and you are hinting on gender roles. Yeah.
Yes, the gender roles have changed. Most men go to work, they provide, they have to come back and be emotionally present, the family man, and even actively involved in family home activities. Now, this has created some problems in the roles. And I was talking that the role conflict theory has a way of trying to explain that the men may experience stress when traditional expectations of masculinity conflict with the new expectations, creating uncertainty in what it means to be a man. That's why you see there are so many gender-related or domestic violences. Sometimes they are on the lines of what roles both parties assume. I think if this is trained right from childhood, it will be easier. But some people are not raised that way, and then it starts to get conflicts in the family and affecting their mental health. Then I was also talking about the digital world today, the social media, the digital world. Today, people are so much in the kind of life of showbiz. You've seen people posting images of wealth, success, ideal physique that seemingly appear so perfect, or in perfect relationships. Now, many other men compare their private struggles with these carefully curated lives of others, and then it gets them into despair. So we've been saying that when people start to compare themselves, they see themselves as less of men, and this lowers their self-esteem. So these are some of the changing trends that have impacted on men and compromises their mental state. Then we have this urbanization. Everybody's shifting from the village to town. White collar jobs are in town. Some men are left in the houses. I think recently you've heard about this trend of what do we call it? Arab world drift. And clinically, I have had some experience there that most men find themselves alone in the house. The wife went to look for chukumi. The person is alone and doesn't even know what to do, how to look after the children. So these drifts leave men without the social support that they need, and then they are meant.
Thank you so much, James. I don't know if you're still on, but I want to believe that you are summarizing from the insights Rogers shares. Is I think we can
Host?
coin it as yes, Mr. Ansereko. Like we can hear you now. No, we can hear you now.
Hello, host.
Yeah, I can hear you now. No, Nedda, but we can hear you now. Lillian, can you hear me?
Yes, doctor. Can hear you.
Okay, so
I can also
Mr.
hear Mr. Ansereko.
But it's not.
Hello.
I think he can't hear us. We can hear you.
I think the issue is on his end now.
Probably network. So you can mute him and then just remind him to log out and log in again. I think that will help as we go on, because he will keep interfering and yet he can't hear us. Have you muted him?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. So without distorting our stream of thought, Mr. Ansereko, I think, highlights one key issue, that there are serious shifts in gender roles over the years. And this does not only cause conflicts in mind, but it also causes conflicts in families and in societies where men. And he also highlighted the influence of the digital world and exposure to social media, what someone would call fake lives. And this causes men to compare with others and also causes conflicts in their minds. Now, I want to get back to you, Raymond. I know you hinted on some of these issues, but I will just ask again. How do regular men like you and myself and the men all here usually deal with the issues that they face? I mean, you highlighted a couple of issues, and Rogers has painted the pictures, given us, in a way, an explanation of why men are going through these issues in their day-to-day lives. How do men usually, from your interaction with men, how do they usually deal with issues and their stressors?
Thank you so much. There are, of course, many ways, and many people deal differently, but some of the most prominent ways that you find, the first is silence. More often than not, anytime that a friend of yours who's a man keeps quiet over prolonged periods of time, they are very likely dealing with a challenge that's mental health related. And silence has sort of been fashioned as a form of strength, Men are told that the more quiet you are whilst you're facing your problems, the stronger you are as a man. And there are even songs to this effect that encourage men to keep quiet and go through their problems. The second that I found is people finding coping mechanisms, and this might be drugs, might be alcohol, it might be hyperactivity, where you constantly and consistently see someone's alcohol intake starting to increase. So if they were going to the bar possibly only on Friday, they start to go on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Some of these signs are oftentimes, you check someone's morning flask and there's alcohol instead of tea. And they use that alcohol as a form of coping mechanism because it gives them some sense of immediate erasure from the problem that they are facing. There's also those who can afford, who then get onto the hyper drugs that we've seen, and that can also have its own impact and own effects on the life of that person, particularly in the way that they deal. in very rare circumstances, we've seen some men, particularly the younger generation now, start to go to see a therapist. But these are very few. It's a very, very small number of people who go to a therapist and say, I feel like I'm facing this problem, or I feel like I'm dealing with this problem. Now, I don't know what makes that number small. I don't know whether it's because oftentimes the challenge is also financial, and to see a therapist requires money, or that many men have not yet seen therapy as a potent vehicle within which to address their mental health challenges. So I guess those are some of the ways. And in hyperactivity, of course, you see increased, exercise. Sometimes you see increased use of religion and religious edifices to try and sort a problem. So people who haven't been praying before all of a sudden become increasingly prayerful. It's not a bad thing to pray, but sometimes those are indicators. But also there's social withdrawal. We've seen withdraw them from the circles where they the circles of people they play football with, the circles of people they drink with, they party with occasionally, or even the circles of people that they deal with at work. Now, those are the non-harmful ways in a way, but also other times you see abusive behavior or repeated patterns of abuse. So people become excessively abusive and violent, sometimes through the use of physical violence or even emotional violence, verbal abuse. And all of those sometimes point to a challenge at the heart of the problem. And in very few circumstances are those cases diagnosed and dealt with. So oftentimes it also falls to the victim of the mental health challenge to be the one to be self-aware that they are now in a space that requires support. So yes, those are some of the ways that I've seen at least some of the men dealing with.
Thank you so much, Raymond. You again highlight key issues here that men may prefer to choose silence instead of speaking up when they are troubled or they have issues in their social lives. You've also highlighted that men are likely to, take to drugs and use of other substances. For those that probably were not using, they start to use it, and those that were using, they increase the frequency of using, and sometimes can lead to other issues as well. And then you mention issues like social withdrawal and aggression and violence as well as means of dealing with their stresses. I don't know if Mr. Nsereko is back. Mr. Nsereko, are you back? Lillian is not back. Eh?
He's back. I have sent him one invite to speak. He hasn't yet accepted it. So
okay. So let's continue. So Raymond, all these things that you highlight, I think ties up with the statistics that I shared earlier, and we see that they make men more vulnerable to mental illness. For example, we know that speaking up and sharing your problems is the first step. Yes, Mr. Nsereko.
Thank you. Talking about the copings that men normally use, I would like to really work within a theoretical framework so that we're able to understand some of these maladaptive ways of coping. When men have emotional challenges, normally the first thing is they close in. We'd call it withdrawal. They withdraw from interacting, in taking part in activities, and that doesn't solve the emotional pain, it just worsens it. And as they withdraw, it continuously broods unhelpful thinking in their minds, which worsens their pain. When more unhelpful thinking grows, the more the emotional distress, and then that pushes them to find a way of trying to cope. Some go into alcohol or drug use as a way of trying to medicate themselves from the pain that they cannot express and resolve. Some will get aggressive. I think you've seen that many times when a man is brooding something, they start to be aggressive, rude in their talk. It is a sign that they are going through some challenges. And anger and aggression is often a way that they express their pains. Some will go into overworking as a defense mechanism. They try to convert their emotional conflicts into work. So they work long hours, but even if...
Mr. Nsereko, we've lost you again.
Hello?
Okay, now you can speak. We can hear you now. I can hear you.
So I was talking about the maladaptive ways. We said that some get into overworking, and excessive working can lead to the exhaustion in the body and even paves way for other illnesses. But to them, it is a way of trying to cope with their emotional conflicts. And we've said that some will go into substance use as of trying to nurse their pains, but eventually substance use will lead to so many other mental health challenges. I guess Doctor already alluded to that. Yes, that is it.
Thanks so much, Mr. Nsereko. You've been very elaborate, and I won't dilute what you have stated, but you try to give us the link between the defective ways of how men deal with their stresses or difficulties, and how this makes them vulnerable to more mental health issues. Now, I want to come to Benedict. Dr. Ben, you've been silent. What is the science or neurobiology behind these coping mechanisms that you have described? Where it helps, you can feel free to compare with our female counterparts just to drive the point home. But we just want to understand what's happening in the brain. We know the brain has transmitters, has hormones, has so many things. But what's happening in the brain of a man during all these processes that Raymond and James have described?
Great, humbled to be here. Let me start with something I want every man in this room to hold on to tonight. Yes, we said even women should be a part of us because they are. But you know, as a man, your brain was never designed to eliminate stress. It was designed to survive it. You know, and that's why you do something, you think I can figure it. But the problem begins when this stress stops being a moment because it's a part of you and becomes a season. You know, when you as a man, you face pressure, you're having things like unpaid bills, a failing marriage. I was actually reading an interesting thing a few minutes ago. Job loss, illness, the brain fires an alarm. You know? And we have what we call the hypothalamus. Don't mind so much about the science. So this hypothalamus signals the pituitary. Now, this pituitary triggers the adrenal glands. And with these adrenal glands, suddenly your body is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol. And this is what helps. Your heart starts hitting very fast. I know some of you who have gone for interviews. I would remember in medical school, you're going for an exam and your heart is beating so fast, you've gone to the toilet severally. Your muscles tighten, your mind sharpens. And this system was built for lions. Do you know that? It was built for lions. But well, the threats most men face today are not lions, okay? They are usually sometimes slow, they are grinding because of the work you're doing. Sometimes they're invisible kind. You know what's happening. And these things really don't disappear in minutes. No one should tell you. These things do follow your home, where you're going. They sit with you at the dinner table. You know, you're having a meal at home, but all you're thinking about is ABCD. And sometimes they are there when you wake up at 3 a.m. I know some of us have woken up in the middle of the night Some would say, wake up like at 3 a.m. to think about many things. And so the stress response designed to be temporary starts becoming great. So usually when cortisol stays elevated for too long, these three things begin to shift in your brain. This is the important part. We have what we call the amygdala. So your threat, this is like your threat detector. You start becoming very hyperactive. You're thinking, what's happening? People at work no longer want me. The neighbors no longer want me. So everything starts to feel dangerous. Any small thing that was okay, you start fearing. And small things start feeling anonymous, yet they were okay. Then you have what you call the prefrontal cortex. That is your thinking, okay? Your reasoning, your decision-making center. It starts becoming less efficient because there's a lot happening. And you're like, used to be a person who, let me use footballers, okay? If you're a footballer who used to do this when you're about to score, you can no longer do it, yet you used to do it very well. So the very part of you that is supposed to help you navigate the storm begins to be quiet. The things you used to do then, they start being quiet. You can no longer do them. And the other one is the hippocampus. This is what anchors the memory and learning. And it starts shrinking under prolonged stress. You're very stressed. I used to tell some people, sometimes when you're driving and you're going home, you miss the turn or you miss your passwords of your phone. Like, what happened? I've seen this happening. You go to the bank and you can't put in. So when you as a man, so when a man says, I can't think straight, I'm always on the edge, I keep forgetting things, I can't switch off, that is not weakness, you people, because you're used to man knowing everything. But when we can finally come and say that it's not weakness, it's when the brain that has been carrying too much for too long without relief. And as men, because you carry things so long and you don't want to talk about them, eventually starts affecting. So now the brain is always looking for relief, and that is not character flaw, that is biology. And here is where it gets important. So whenever something has become temporary, it reduces your emotional pain, the brain will release what we call dopamine. Think about dopamine. It's the chemical reward and motivation. So the brain doesn't distinguish between healthy relief, how you've been healthy, and the harmful part, because it's already a part of it. So it simply notes that worked, and they want alcohol quiets the noise. You're like, let me go drink, I'm going to feel better. But in the morning, the problems are back. Increases the dopamine, reinforced. You start gambling, which creates distraction, not going and figuring this. That's still dopamine and feels reinforced. You start having overworking numbs, the emptiness, the dopamine still. You've gone to work, you're robotic. Something I was telling people that sometimes you go to work, but you're very robotic at work. So over time, the man is no longer managing his original stress. It has worsened. He is managing the withdrawal from the very, very things he used to cope with. Why? Because he was never able to talk. And that is how addiction begins. I always tell people the biggest number of people in the national referral are people using things, not with form of failure, but with the brain in pain, reaching for anything that offers relief. And how do we compare with women? I know you're wondering, okay? Do men and women cope differently? Biologically, to be honest, we share the same stress system, but there are important differences worth understanding. So in women under stress, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is amplified by estrogen, and it nudges them toward connection, which is very different from us. And they want to have a conversation, okay, and towards reaching out. And that is why, when men come to the national referral, they stay longer versus the women who come early and move fast. So women do build social support networks. They talk earlier, they name what they are feeling. Us, on the other hand, are often raised on a very different script. You have to be tough, my boss. You have to be tough. And I've seen this in bosses of everyone. They have to be tough. They can't talk about it. You have to handle it yourself. Please do not cry. Come on. How do you cry? No. Real men don't complain. So testosterone under the stress reinforces your action and withdrawal, not connection, and so many suppress rather than express. And that's why I've seen people as they start growing old, even the friends start reducing. So here is what I need you to understand about suppression. Emotions that are buried do not die. No one should lie to you. There's someone who I knew who had lost a parent, tried to think they are okay, and this came after 10 years. Grief and bereavement. Okay? So emotions that are buried do not die. They go underground. They do surface, by the way, as irritability, as aggression, and excessive drinking. You know, some people say, let me stay at work. They're working 16 hours. They don't want to go back home. So as a man who is physically present, but you're completely unreachable. I've seen this thing in someone is there, but they can never have a conversation. And this is why depression in us men rather looks what you see in a textbook. I know the doctors here want to bring the textbook, of course, when you're going for an exam, but sometimes it's very different. It does not always look like a man weeping in the corner. No. Sometimes it looks like rage. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like man who just stopped caring. I've seen people, you go to a bar and they're there by themselves. So the brain is not broken. It's simply trying with only tools it was given to survive as men. So to encourage message is this, really in this. The brain is remarkably adaptable. Even after prolonged stress, recovery is possible when we receive the right support. I always told people I want to create a space for men for us to go and talk about what we're going through, not to drink alcohol. Over to you. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Ben. You again share a lot of insights with us. I think for me, the take home is that there's a science to these behaviors or reactions that men exhibit, reactions to stress that we often see. And I think what you highlight is that the body, during stressful circumstances, the body releases some hormones that are meant to help us go through the short phase of a stressful moment. But if the stress stays on for long, those hormones become harmful in one way or the other and may start to affect our sleep, start to affect the decision-making processes, may affect our memories. So oftentimes when you're very stressed or stressed for a long time, you may have trouble remembering a few things and even learning new things. And these stress hormones can also lead us to look for temporary pleasure, and that's where men end up into alcohol and other substances as a way of, giving temporary pleasure. But we know that leads to opens up another canon of worms. You also highlight some key differences that men and women have some differences in the hormones that they have, and that may drive women towards social interaction when they are stressful, and may drive men away when they are stressful. And I think you also give us hope that recovery is possible. So my take home is there's a science to all this, and it is not just happening from nowhere. Now I want to go back to you, Raymond. With what we have discussed so far and what we've learned, it seems that stressful situations may not easily be changed. You heard from James that these are shifts that have occurred over the years, and it's difficult to change some of these social economic environments. What should men do if they are to stay mentally healthy despite the ongoing potentially unchangeable situations? Regardless, we move. What should men do that, regardless of the stresses that they experience or they are bound to experience, they should remain mentally healthy and functional? What should we do?
Thank you so much. Again, like I said, I'm probably the least qualified, considering that we have psychiatrists and psychologists on this space. I think, in my own personal experience, the treatment of mental health as an ongoing concern, as a daily activity, is one of those things that I've found to be helpful. So, one, to have a sense of routine around life and say, this is what I want to do with life, and to have a sense of the things that you have in your control, which are waking up in the morning, having breakfast, for example, taking a walk. Some of those things are well within your control, and consistently doing them over time then gives you confidence to confront what are otherwise the bigger challenges. Number two is to incorporate activity in our day-to-day life. That could be a walk to clear the mind. It could be a run. I've also found to have discipline around meal times to be important. So eat your meals within time. I've also found finding healthy habits around sleep to be important. Doctors say that we should be able to sleep at least 7 hours in a day. And to be able to sleep 7 hours in a day, you need to have a good and healthy routine. So putting gadgets away, maybe an hour before you sleep, indulging in something that's less stressful, distressing from the day, and then eventually sleeping and being able to sleep for at least 7 hours is one of those ways you can. I think the people who have studied the science will speak to the science better. For me, I'm speaking from a point of practice. Definitely going to and seeing a therapist is one of those things that it's heavily recommended, but of course it has an economic cost that's attached to it. And the reality is that in this kind of economy where people are competing for almost every little thing, the cost of living is high. It can be very hard to ask people to make time and money within their budget to go and see a therapist, but many men really need to see a therapist. I find healthy male relationships to be one of those positive points. People you can talk to about almost anything, not just about challenges, about life in itself and how it's being lived. And then I guess very finally is to say, to understand, get some emotional knowledge or emotional literacy on the full range of emotions that a human being suffers or endures or goes through, and to be able to map those emotions as they happen in you, to say, in this moment I probably feel sad and this is the reason I feel sad, or in this moment I feel happy, this is the reason I feel happy. I find that being able to do that consistently over time gives you a sense of perspective on life, and also a sense of perspective on your own mental health and how to deal with it. Other than that, I think for the recommendation for community and society is really to build healthy habits around men, to be the peace of the men in their lives, to be able to have conversations with the men in their lives, to be able to recognize that everyone has a role to play in building or ending stigma around mental health in men. So I guess that's what I will say for now, and leave it for the more educated in this space to say more.
Thank you so much, Raymond. And I want to get to Mr. Nsereko. I hope you're still on with us. You've heard from Raymond. What is your professional take?
He's not speaker currently. Earlier on, his mic was unmute and was disrupting the session, so I mute him. However, he hasn't accepted the invite to speak again. Okay, he's now on.
Mr. Nsereko. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, actually, what Raymond said is quite interesting. It's good, actually. Much of what I'll be saying has already been said. But I just want to add emotional awareness. I'm really glad that we're beginning to wake up to this. And some of these topics have been integrated into the curriculum of schools. Teaching young children right from a young age emotional awareness. They get to know the different emotions, how to express them, how to cope with them is very important. So men also need that.
We need emotional awareness, getting to understand the different feelings and how to express them, and then demystifying this idea that emotion expression is evil. When you have anger, it is evil. Having anger is okay. The problem is aggression. But anger is okay. It's normal. Everybody gets it. But the only problem is the behavior that comes out of the emotions. If men get to learn that emotions themselves are not bad, are not enemies. Sometimes I often tell them that God created these emotions for us to know how to problem solve things. If you don't have the emotions, you may not even know how to problem solve things. So the only problem is the expression that may be a problem. And another thing is teaching men to be mindful of their thinking. If everybody knows how to pay attention to the thoughts that come into their mind and appreciate that the thoughts you have impact on how you feel and even what you subsequently do, it's very powerful. That once you know how to manage your thoughts, you're able to process emotions comfortably. Then Raymond already talked about getting into meaningful activities. I liked the fact that you can also go and meet men, talk about these issues, but it's socializing. When you go and socialize, you're able to speak out some of the things that are hurting, and then you're able to overcome them. Then the other thing is to reduce the harsh criticisms, self-criticism. Some people, when they face a failure, wow, the way they treat themselves, it's like they're treating a rebel. They treat themselves with harsh terms, harsh words. So that self-criticism, men have to learn not to get into self-criticism. One way of doing that is by keeping gratitude diaries. And on this space, how many people have a gratitude diary? A book where you write all the good things that have happened in the day at the end of the day. The reason why we keep a gratitude diary is that we often train our minds to pay more attention to what is going wrong than what is going right. If you train your mind to pay attention to only what is going wrong, you're most likely going to be in a negative mood much of the time. But if you train the mind to pay attention to what is going right, you're most likely going to be in positive emotions. So that's the power of the gratitude diary. And I think the rest Raymond has talked about them, building sexual relationships with the people around you and family that can promote good mental health for men. So I think that is it. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nsereko, for those very insightful additions to what Raymond had highlighted. Now, I want to go back to Ben. Many things have been said, including how men deal with their stresses, the distress reactions they exhibit, and so on and so forth. How does one know that what I'm experiencing is tending towards mental illness? And when should one, and when and where should one seek professional help? Ben, are you with us? Lillian, is Ben with us?
He is.
Okay, he's muted. Maybe you request him
He's a speaker.
to unmute.
He's a speaker, so he should just start speaking, unmute himself.
Dr. Kimana, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. Did you hear the question I posed?
No, I didn't hear the question. I think.
Okay, I'll just repeat again.
Yes.
Sorry?
Go on.
I'll just repeat. So with all that has been said, we've highlighted defective coping means, and these all come with expressions in behavior, in feelings, and in thought. As someone going through these things, when do we know that what you're experiencing is tending towards mental illness? And when should one seek, when and where should one seek professional help?
Right. Very interesting question. So you see, normally as an individual, everyone does experience sadness. We also experience that moment you're anxious about something. And we all have seasons of overwhelming, things overwhelm you. But that's not mental illness, we would say, if you're able to handle that. But mental illness is when these emotions become persistent, they're becoming relentless, and begin stealing your life from you. So I usually ask the people I meet one question. Is what you're experiencing stopping you from living the life you want to live? I ask that. And at the beginning, someone said you ask someone how are you and they say they are fine. I usually go back and say, how are you? Again. Then they start telling me the others. So if the answer is yes, this is time. Okay? And here are the signs that you're carrying has exceeded your capacity to manage alone. One is the duration. If you have felt persistently low, you're anxious, you're being empty for more than 2 weeks without natural lift, please don't wait as a man. Please don't wait. That is not a bad week. That's a signal. Okay? Functioning, you start underperforming at work, you start withdrawing from people you love, you start neglecting yourself. You're the smart person, but this time you're not doing that. Really, when you start feeling that your daily life begins to break down, that is your brain telling you something is wrong at a deeper level. In your biology, of course, sleep. Someone said they say you should sleep 7 to 8 hours. You start sleeping lesser hours. Remember that important person in the world who was saying you should sleep for 4 hours. He wanted to rule the whole world. I don't know where he went, definitely. So your appetite starts being affected. You start being fatigued, inability to concentrate. And you start, there's an interesting person called my senior Dr. Emma, who supports Arsenal. So when you start having those moments, you stop liking things that you do, like watching Arsenal. You start knowing this is very, very important. So these are not emotional complaints. They are physiological signs that the brain is under strain. Okay? So coping that has become the problem, things like more alcohol than before and still not feeling relief. So therefore, rage that arrives before you understand why. Okay? You don't know what's happening and rage is coming. You start having risk-taking that feels less like living and more like not caring if you don't. So basically, your thoughts, persistent hopelessness, you start feeling trapped, you start feeling a burden to the people around you, you start believing nothing will ever change. Depression is among the commonest. But because you're going through it, that's when you start doing other things like you're drinking, like doing ABCD, thinking it's helping. And then the most urgent sin of all, any thought that life is not worth living. People, WHO would say every 45 seconds, so same how many have taken their lives since we got here. Probably things have even changed. So any thought that those around you would be better off without you, if you start thinking about that, that is a medical emergency and no man should face it alone. Someone was talking about it in a group. Is like, this man is going through a lot. I think he needs help. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You're like, if I go to a psychiatrist, they'll put me on tablet. If I go to a psychiatrist, they'll admit you to hospital. And, that's why I always tell people, the name Mutabika, do research, comes from something different, not Okutabuka. It has nothing like that. So they think, Why should I go and see this person? Why should I see him? Okay? Let us dismantle that, you guys. Can we dismantle that and make it something that is very important? I always tell my clients, don't wait for things to reach that side. Come and say how you're feeling, and that will help. So professional help begins with listening. And I think that's why we're here with a number of people, because that helps. So a mental health profession does not work with a prescription pad, you guys. No, that's not what we do. We sit with you. We ask questions about your symptoms, your history, your relationships, your life. And as we're asking, we listen more. Okay? I saw this person, that's what they're thinking. And from there, we have what we call treatment that is tailored. And like I always tell people, that in treatment you have the biological, psychological, and social. And that's why at the end of it all, you're never in this alone. You have a team that comes through that will help you. So for some men, it is therapy, learning practical skills that will help to manage thought patterns, and of course, emotional responses. Some of us with our emotional responses, we get very angry, or we do this and that as men. Or sometimes because we are very narcissistic, we think we should be right in this, yet sometimes we are wrong. It's improving sleep, Improving sleep is very, very important. Reducing alcohol. I always tell people this. I do run the rehab. I tell people you have to get off alcohol, this and that. But when you go abroad, you get to understand that they even send you to these places for a few weeks and they start telling you, can you now reduce to something that's not important? I think that's where the doctors of nutrition tell you a wine in a day is good, But what's important is sometimes it worsens and goes the other side. So sometimes tell you, please do not, because what are the options? So rebuilding a structure is very, very important with your family, with the people you are. For some, family counseling is important because you're not alone. The other day, someone called me, is like, we have this patient in Butabika, I want this person to first stay there. But I tell them, you people are not here with us. You need to understand what's happening. That is where we need the family to come. But sometimes you call them, they don't want. So we tell them, you know what, we shall release the patient. Maybe they will come. For others, yes, medication comes in, that is important. And when medication is needed, it's not a life sentence, It is a rehabilitation. Just like some of you have pressure, have this, when you have flu, you pass by the pharmacy and you get the medicine. So really, the same logic we apply without question to blood pressure, to diabetes, to a broken bone. That should be for mental health. So to me, as I close this section, let me close this section with the image I always come back to. We do not wait until an engine has completely seized before taking a car for the mechanic. Or your phone today, your wheel, should you see it warning that it's going to go off, you quickly want to charge it. Okay? So why do we wait until we are completely broken where we turn to our minds? And I repeat that. Why do we wait until we are completely broken before we turn to our minds? So seeking help early is not weakness. For my men, it is not. It is strength. It is not. It is the most intelligent thing a man can do for himself. And I will say that again. It is the most intelligent thing a man can do for himself, for the family, and for the people who need you, who need him to still be there. So, you strong men out there, you don't suffer alone. Strong men know when it is time to reach out.
Thank you so much, Benedict, for highlighting that. I will just pick my key takeaways as well from your submission. You highlight many symptoms, and I think there are similar symptoms that people experience when they are stressed. But to know when one should seek help, I think you point out the issue of intensity. These symptoms usually are a bit too much, more than usual. And then you also highlight the fact that there is a time frame to the symptoms, so they are persistent and they stay on for a long time. And I think most importantly, you also note that these symptoms usually affect our functioning. They affect our social functioning, the way we interact with people, the way we work or attend to school, our duties, but may also affect our physical health, such as sleeping and things like that. And I think you encourage us to seek help because help exists. And I think seeking help is not equals to taking pills. There are other modalities of treatment like counseling where they can talk to you. You have therapists like Mr. Anseriko who can talk to you and help you address your issues. But also for some symptoms or certain conditions, you may require treatment, usually to provide to supplement on the other talk therapy that has been mentioned. And I think you encourage us to seek help, that help exists. But as you do that, where should we go, Benedict?
That's an interesting question, especially from
Ours.
you. That I love what the government is doing. That all the hospitals, the regional referral hospitals, we are fighting so much to ensure you have the team, the psychiatrists, the psychologists, and all these people. It's not only about regional referral, and which is a beautiful thing. I always tell people in 2016, I was in school in class alone. I was at 36. Now we have reached 100, and we're making sure that the whole country is being helped from where they are. So all these places that doctor goes to, Dr. Kalani to support, we are making sure, like even Dr. Manuel, to ensure that this team is there. So these people are there in the regional referral hospitals. We even ensure that the health center has a team that is helping. So we ensure that is very, very helpful. Thank you.
Are there private facilities, Benedict, that provide these services in our setting?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Are there private facilities? Are there private facilities where we can seek help, or men can seek help if they have these issues, mental health issues?
Yes, definitely. There've always been these private things of people, of rehab centers, of where we're ensuring that the teams are there. All these amazing hospitals that are private, having this team where people can go through that, ensure that you can help people. Why? Because sometimes at the regional referral hospitals, sometimes you don't have enough space to help people. So there are all these regional referrals, there are all these rehabs with a team to help people, and you can go through and they're able to.
Thank you so much, Benedict. Take home is help can be sought from health facilities near you, both private and government, but they are specialized government units or mental health treatment units at regional referral hospitals. And then we have one national referral hospital that is specialized for treating mental health issues or concerns. So I want to thank you so much. Now I want to spare some time for question and answer for the people, for you who've been listening. Lillian, how do we do this? Do we have any questions or comments in the chat?
There are people who requested for the mic. I have Dr. Stephen Lutoti. He's now a speaker. In case you have any question, please, or any supplement.
Okay.
Dr. Lutoti.
Maybe we can take about 3 at once and we shall give time.
And any other person who has a
address.
question, I think after Dr. Lutot, we shall have Joseph. Joseph, you also speaker now. After Dr. Lutot, you can speak if you have a question or supplement. Yes, doctor.
Thank you so much, and good evening to all of us here. This is a very interesting topic, and I want to thank the organizers, and I want to make a request that we make it a series, even if it is weekly or bi-weekly or bi-monthly. I think it is something worth giving attention and ensuring that we have all of.
We have lost you, Dr. Lutoti. His mic is no longer visible. I think he has had a problem.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Can you
he's
hear
back.
me?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, so I was saying that this is a very important topic, and if we do make it more regular, not just maybe a one-off, but we make it an agenda, whether it is weekly uh, engagement on a particular day where all of us are aware, and also mobilizing other people to ensure they tune in.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. This is going to be monthly. Like we had mentioned earlier at the beginning, it's a collaboration between the Ministry of Health, the Uganda Association of Psychiatrists, the Clinical Psychologists Association Uganda, and the Haven Mental Health Foundation. So we shall have these spaces to educate the public about different mental health conditions from professionals. So they will be monthly. Thank you. Joseph, you had a question and your speaker. As Joseph is preparing, we have Omal. Omal, your speaker. Anyone else who would like to speak, please send in your request. Omal, unmute. You are speaker. Dr. Mal Abdirahman. Dr. Kalan, those are the only people who sent me requests to speak, but I don't know what's happening. I gave them the rights. However, they are not speaking. I'm not sure if there's anyone else who has a question or a comment. Over to you.
I just wanted to add one comment. Hello.
Yes, Ms. Ansariko, we
Hello.
can hear you.
Yes, I also just wanted to add that in Mutabika,
Lillian,
we
are
are
you
going
on?
to start doing video counseling. So even those who are
Hello?
very far and they would like to talk to a psychologist, they'll have a chance to. Hello.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ansariko, for that
Hello?
addition. Yes, Dr. Kalan, we can hear you. Dr. Kalan, we can hear you, please.
Okay.
Yes,
Sorry, I
doctor, we
dropped
can
off.
hear you.
I don't know what phase of.
Dr. Kalani, Dr. Omal Abrahman, are you able to speak now? Looks like Kalani is having network issues. So I'll just step in and we close this space. I'm going to request the speakers to give us their parting shots, starting with Mr. Mjun, sir. If there is any key thing you'd like to leave the attendees with, what would that be?
Thank you so much for having me. I think that for me, the most important thing is to treat mental health with the seriousness it deserves. Benedict said something that's really important, which is do not wait for the worst possible outcome. If you don't feel well over a cross period, maybe of 14 days, it should be okay to go and say, you know what, let me go and see a specialist about this. For our phone batteries to die out before we charge our phones, we don't wait in all the other areas to recharge. So why do we wait until our mental health is completely in shambles for us to get some help? So I think that that's the first thing. But the second and most important for the people on this space is we need to find a way to destigmatize mental health amongst men, most specifically. You need to consistently encourage the men in your life to talk about the things that they are feeling. And you have to find ways which have to be comfortable for them to speak about how they're feeling, the ways in which they're feeling. And I guess that's one of the ways to start. But also most importantly, I'd say, thank you so much to all the specialists that have offered themselves. It would be nice if these spaces are communicated openly and we can retweet them and send them out into the wind so that people know where they can go in case they need to be helped. So I want to thank you for having me on this space. I that I was the least qualified. There are people here who have graduated, who understand this, who've practiced in the space. I only bring experiences as having someone who's been in Uganda, dealt with mental health, and gone to see specialists for help. So thank you so much for having me on this space.
Thank you, Mr. Mjuen. There's a saying that experience is the best teacher. And we think that a person who has experienced a condition knows much more about it, probably certain aspects even much more than someone who has just read about the disease. So I believe that you're not the least qualified, probably even the most qualified to speak about this topic, especially among men, considering that you're also a man. Thank you very much, Dr. Kalani. Thank you for coming back. I took over in your absence. We are listening to our speakers. They're giving us their last remarks. Mr. Mjuni is done, and we shall go to Mr. Nsereko. Your parting shots, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And this is really good to educate the masses about mental health. I would also, at some point, I wish if mental health is also integrated in the Tuesday classes. Yes, such that whoever becomes a parent already knows how to teach a younger child to be mindful of their mental health. So it should be integrated with parenting. So I think this is a good initiative, and thank you for this. And I also want to say the Clinical Psychology Association has so many psychologists out there, and they're willing to help if you can reach out to them. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Kalani.
Thank you, Mr. Nsereko. Dr. Akimana, your parting shots. And after that, I'll hand over to Dr. Kalani to close the space.
Thank you very much. You can hear me?
Yes, doctor. We can hear you.
Hear me? Can you hear me? All right. To me, I've been humbled to be with you here today at the end of Men's Mental Health Month. It's been nice to talk. I think as gentlemen, as people who are here, not only gentlemen, but everyone, a problem shared is a problem halved. There is a problem shared is a problem halved. Real strength is not suffering in silence. It's reaching out when you need support. Let us keep talking. Let us keep listening. Let's keep showing up for one another.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Akimana. Dr. Kalani, are you able to join us as he's coming on? Jude Gumoshabe, you have requested for the mic for a long time, and we had not got many people from the audience to say something. As we wait for Dr. Kalani to close, do you have something you'd like to say? I have added you as a speaker, please. Yes, please. Let it be brief.
All right. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. And I'd like to appreciate everyone who has presented this evening. Dr. Benedict said something that caught my attention earlier on. He said he's planning on starting up something where he can have conversations with gentlemen. I am here to inform everyone who is on this space. At the beginning of this year, we started up something where we hold conversations with gentlemen, and we encourage emotional expression. We have those deep conversations with gentlemen. We hold the spaces every end of the month. And ever since we began this, I've come to learn that it's not that men do not want to talk. It's not that men don't want to express themselves. They just want somewhere they can belong, somewhere that is consistent, where they can be listened to and know that it is their home. So we have had these conversations. We last had one last week and it was amazing. So I would encourage men to look out for these spaces. Please, if you can, reach out to my inbox, my DM. I'll add you on our community. Let us continue these conversations. The more we talk about these things, the more we lift the weight that we are carrying. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomashabe. I see Mr. Nwagaba really insisting. Please be brief. Say something, but be very, very brief. And then after you, Dr. Kalani will take over to wrap up the session. Mr. Nwagaba?
I hope I'm loud and clear.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Mine is just a small supplement that mental health, most times, it's equally attributed to the use of substances. That car, one beer you have in the evening, that cigarette. Initially, you might think that one beer is not so bad, or that one cigarette is not bad, but there is a cumulative effect. And these chemicals have a bit of a slow poison that in the long run has an effect on your brain. So that I think also should be emphasized, that where possible, you really cut off the use of substances. When I talk of substances, I mean vitamins. Like if something is really changing your mental status, in the long run, it has an impact on your mental health. Then maybe to add on something else, I would just want to state that as men, let us reduce on expectations. I think quite often we set targets so high, and in the long run, we don't achieve them, and you start blaming yourself, you start getting into loans, the loans start eating you up. So I would say maybe let's really reduce on expectations. Ekiganye. Olunaku lute. It has not worked out. It has not worked out. These things of setting New Year resolutions in our African setting was to be called. Do what you can within the time and within the budget. You can't have a capital of 5 million and you are setting a target of 50 million.
Okay, Mr. Nwagaba, thank you very much. Please wrap up. Please wrap up and we'll close the space.
So those are my two parting shots. Kindly let us not really raise expectations. Let us not raise the bar so high. And where possible, that beer, that cigarette, just on your way. Just leave it out. You'll be safeguarding your mental state. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Dr. Kalani, hopefully now you're back on and you can close the session.
Thank you so much, Lillian, for stepping in. I experienced several network interruptions. I want to thank my panelists who have really given us so much knowledge in a very simple way. I want to believe that all that they shared was understandable to us, and we were going to implement and put probably what we've picked here, a thing or two, into action to protect or promote mental wellness. What I learned from all this is that mental health or mental well-being is like happiness. It is pursued. So guard your mental health, and implement the many things that Benedict and Raymond and Rogers have shared to ensure that we remain mentally healthy amidst the turbulent times, because the times are changing. And I also want to encourage us that help exists, and let's be in the habit of seeking support. Support doesn't only mean professional support, but also from within families, but also where need be, let's seek professional help. There are services that exist in health facilities. The number of psychiatrists are increasing. We've now hit close to 100, and they provide professional support. We also have clinical psychologists, a number of them are available in facilities. Seek support. I think that is the only way we can protect our mental health. Otherwise, you will get mental illness, and as we've seen, it affects us in numerous ways. It affects our social functioning, occupational functioning, and even can affect our physical health. So I want to thank the listeners for being here all this time. We've slightly gone over the 1.5 hour mark. We had planned to stop at 1 hour and 30 minutes, but we're 15 minutes late because of the several issues. Thank you so much for listening in. And we want to bank on Lillian for the next session. Thanks, Lillian, for organizing this and for all the other associations. Over to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kalani, for moderating this session so well. We want to appreciate our panelists. Thank you for doing the session justice. We appreciate our partners, the Ministry of Health, the Uganda Association of Psychiatrists, the Clinical Psychologists Association Uganda. The Harvard Mental Health Foundation's mandate is to really educate the public. We aim to raise awareness about mental health issues, offer assessments, and linked professional care. These will be monthly spaces, and we hope that you'll be able to be creating that time and you join. Thank you very much, and I wish you a great new month of July. Bye-bye.